Welcome to this introductory video on how to capture data in REDCap. This video will walk you through the different ways that REDCap can capture data. The purpose of this video is to introduce data entry or capture using REDCap. At the end of this video, you should know how to use the survey distribution tools, know how to add and edit data using the record status dashboard, and know how to add and edit data using the Add Edit Records feature. Once you have your project in production, there are two general ways to enter data using REDCap. The first way is to directly or manually enter data into REDCap. You need to be logged into your REDCap account to do this, and either do this through the website or through the REDCap app. Manual data entry is used, for example, when a participant has to come into the lab and answer questions using one of the researcher's devices, or if the researcher needs to enter responses during an interview. The second way to capture data is to generate a URL or link for the survey. The link can be made publicly available or sent to a specified list of participants. And this allows the participants to enter their data themselves without the researcher. We'll talk about direct data entry first. Again, to do direct data entry, you have to be logged into your REDCap account or the REDCap app. Note that you don't need to enable a survey to directly enter data. To create a record for a new participant manually, click on the Add Edit Records option in the navigation pane on the left side of the screen. This will take you to a new page. There are a few options here. First, you can create a new record by clicking on the Add New Record button. REDCap will automatically give the new record a unique participant ID and take you to the survey instrument page. You can also use the Choose an Existing ID option to open the record and add or edit responses for an existing participant. Let's create a new participant ID. First, click on Add New Record. To enter data, click on the status circle next to the appropriate survey or measure. This will take you to the survey questions, and you can manually enter the responses here. Note that at the bottom of the survey there are a few options. First, let's look at the Save Response options. You have the option of saving the responses in the survey and exiting the form, and this will bring you back to the record homepage. Note that if you do this, the status circle color changes. REDCap color codes the status circle by completeness of data responses. So gray means there are no entries, an orange check means there are partial survey responses, and a green check means the survey responses were all completed. Additionally, red means responses were incomplete, yellow means unverified, or the person entering the data did not verify that the responses were complete and accurate, and green means that all the responses were obtained and the responses were verified. If we click on the status circle, which is currently red because we haven't finished all the responses, and we go back to the bottom of the questions, we can verify the responses by clicking on the options next to the complete question. This is automatically coded as incomplete unless the person entering data manually selects verified or incomplete. Finally, if we click on the down arrow next to the second save button, we can see other options for saving the survey responses. And these include save and stay on this form, save and go to the next form if there's multiple surveys or forms, save and exit the record, which will take you back to the Add Edit Records main page, and save and go to the next record or to the next participant on the list. And this just gives the researcher some flexibility when it comes to entering and checking data. There are also some additional helpful features on the manual entry form pages. First of all, note how next to each question is a circled H and a speech bubble option. If you click on the circled H for a question, REDCap will show you the data entry history for this field and that participant. It will show you the date time that a change was made, by which REDCap user, and what changes were made to that field. This can come in handy if you find errors in data collection, so you can use this feature to see where and who created the error and follow up as needed. If you click on the speech bubble, that will open a field comment log for that question and for that participant. It will record the date time that a comment was made and by which REDCap user. This can come in handy if you're not sure how to enter a participant response, if there was additional context that's important to record, or if the person entering data has a question or comment about that question. Once a comment is entered, the speech bubble moves from faded gray to colored, and this indicates that a comment was made for that question for that participant. When you click on a colored speech bubble, it shows the previous comment and opens another field that can be used to record more comments or make a response to that previous comment. Note, though, that the field comments are not downloaded with the data, and we'll show you how to download data in another video. But for our purposes here, just make sure that any comments do not contain important participant data because that's not going to show up in your downloaded data file. To access the field comments, you'll need to click on the field comment log under the applications in the left-hand navigation pane. You'll be able to see all the field comments here, and you can narrow the comments by participant ID or record, variables or questions, REDCap users, and even do a search through the field comments and download those comments. The second way to capture data through REDCap is to generate a survey link that can be made public, sent to specific participants, or used by the researcher to manually enter responses remotely or without logging into a REDCap account. Again, this is only possible for surveys that have been enabled. Also be aware that a survey option is to allow participants to save and return to edit their responses. This can be a handy feature for longer surveys or ones that have more involved responses, but again, be aware that REDCap provides participants with both a unique URL or survey link and an access code, and they need both in order to go back to access their responses. Sometimes they miss this, so please make sure to clearly explain this somewhere in the survey instructions if you're going to use this feature. To access the survey link, click on Survey Distribution Tools under Data Collection in the navigation panel on the left side of the screen. This will take you to a new page with a few tabs at the top, including Public Survey Link, Participant List, and Survey Invitation Log. Let's start with the Public Survey Link tab, which is the first one shown when you navigate to this page. There are a few options on this page. First, you can copy the public survey URL. This can be made available on a website or by emailing it to participants. You can also directly click on or open the public survey from here. This feature can be used to either manually enter data through the survey link, or it can be used during the design process to see what the survey looks like to the participant using this link. You can also ask REDCap to send you the URL through email, but note that it will send it to the email account that's associated with your REDCap account. You can also click the survey access or QR code option, and two options will appear on this page or window. First, you can generate a custom link with an access code that can be sent to a specific list of people and controls access to the survey. There's also the option to create a short-term code that will expire after a certain amount of time too. Second, you'll be given a QR code that you can print or embed into a website, so anyone who scans the code will be redirected to the survey. And finally, on this page, there are also options for customizing links. You can click Get Short Survey Link, and REDCap will generate a shorter, more user-friendly URL. You can click Custom Survey Link to create your own URL, say with your study name in it. And you can click on Get Embed Code, and REDCap will generate the HTML code that you will need to embed the link on a website. Now let's take a look at the Participant List tab. You can use this list to send survey links to a specific list of participants by email, or to send repeated measures to participants that agreed to participate in the baseline data collection of a longitudinal study. Be aware that this page can change or be a bit more complex for repeated measure or longitudinal data collections, so our review of this page will focus on only the basic uses of this tab. First, note that there is an Enable button over the Participant Identifier column. If you enable this feature, then participant IDs will appear alongside the participant's email. This is very handy if you're tracking responses over time, or if participants have the option to return to their responses. Linking emails with IDs makes it much easier for you to match queries with responses. However, it does make the survey not anonymous, and the researcher will need to take extra steps to protect participant confidential information. If you have an email variable in your survey and you manually enter data or obtain data through the survey, those email addresses will automatically be populated here by REDCap. You can add participants manually by email on this page, and this is handy if you have a list of participants that you want to send the measure to or create unique access codes for. You can click on Compose Survey Invitations to create the email invitation, schedule those invitations, and send reminders if a response hasn't been obtained by a specific time. And under Compose Survey Invitations, you'll also see a full list of all participants with emails in your study, and you can have the email sent to all of those participants or just to a subset of those participants. You can also have different invitations sent out or managed for different measures or different time points. To manage that, you can click the drop-down menu next to Belonging To, and that'll bring up a list of participants per measure. Finally, note that there is a responded column, so if a participant replies, the radio button will change to green. There are other columns too that are helpful here. So the invitation-related column tracks if an invitation is scheduled and whether it was sent, and you can also use these columns to access the unique survey links and QR codes for each participant. And finally, there's a Survey Invitation Log tab. This is where you can track invitations scheduled for or that were already sent to your participants. Note that it can track the time the invitation was scheduled or was sent, the record ID, and the measure or the specific survey that the invitation was sent for. It also tracks whether a participant completed the invitation and if any errors occurred. Finally, once your data is entered into REDCap, there are several ways that you can access specific participant files to review or edit the responses. First, you can access entered data by clicking on the Add Edit Records on the left navigation pane. To access a particular participant's responses, click the drop-down menu next to Choose an Existing Record ID. All the record IDs will be shown. All you have to do is click on the one you want, and you'll be redirected to that specific record homepage. From there, click on the Status button for the specific measure that you're interested in, or that you want to view or edit. Second, you can also click on Record Status Dashboard on the left side navigation pane. This will bring up a table showing all the participants and all the measures in your study. You can access a specific record homepage showing all the responses for a specific participant by clicking on the participant ID. You can also access a specific form and specific forms at different time points for longitudinal studies for each participant by clicking on the radio buttons, specifically the radio button for that participant row and that forms column. And that will direct you to the responses for that participant for that form specifically. And this concludes our introduction to capturing data in REDCap.